Well, this is it. This is the last night. It's gonna be the last time I get to look at this skyline for a long time. It's all absolutely wild. I think this is something I might want to pursue for a career. As long as you're somewhat familiar with any type of editing program, it's fairly easy. It's about 12:39 right now. I literally just went on Postmates and ordered a pizza. So with this vlog, I mainly just want to talk about what going to the edit center was actually like. It was incredible. Absolutely recommend it. But alas, the class is over now. I've gotten a real experience on what it's like being a real editor. I feel it's my destiny to start pursuing movie editing. I will be heading back to the retailer where I currently work at. Out of college, I'm thinking the best start is to move to New York City. New York, it changes you. I'm definitely gonna miss this.
China was criticized for initially covering up the deadly SARS epidemic in the early 2000s. So are they better equipped this time around, given their experience in dealing with such a health crisis of global consequence?
Now, the China Daily in an editorial said that while medical workers did a good job in identifying the new coronavirus, they said that perhaps that Wuhan authorities had been too hasty in saying that there was no human-to-human transmission.
In our deliberations, we have decided that there is a need to step up our overall posture, and we are enhancing our border checks.
Singapore has confirmed its first case of the Wuhan virus.
Well, again, what we know is that it's spreading. That's not really a surprise. What we don't know is a lot about this virus.
So there is really no need to panic, but Singaporeans do need to remain alert.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Officials now say more than 400 people have been sickened and 9 people have died. The World Health Organization is holding an emergency meeting right now.
Now, officials are describing his condition as satisfactory.
This is certainly not a moment for panic or high anxiety.
Chicago witnesses the first person-to-person transmission in the U.S.
It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
We will be denying entry to Canada to people who are not Canadian citizens.
The other thing we're concerned about is how are we going to get home right now?
As we enter the month of March, state governments of California, New York, Maryland, Utah, Kentucky, and Oregon declare a state of emergency.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced the temporary suspension as a measure to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus. Travelers were scrambling to catch flights home ahead of a U.S.-imposed ban on travel.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're becoming crushed under a tidal wave of unfathomable numbers.
The story of the coronavirus changes by the hour.
The message is clear: stop panic buying and hoarding goods.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
I am officially declaring a national emergency.
4 pounds for every American.
U.S. cases of coronavirus more than doubling.
Tonight, amid the sirens, there's another sound in the city. Firefighters applauding ambulances. The sound of gratitude.
It projects 317,000 Americans will die by December 1st. 1,400 deaths a day.
Of all the shortages we have, there's a gasoline shortage. You know what else is disappearing from the supermarket shelves? Toilet paper. Ha ha ha, you can laugh now. There is an acute shortage of toilet paper in the good old United States. We gotta quit writing on it. We got
My name is Corey. I went to New York for a 6-week program for the Edit Center. After I came back, I continued working at Costco, and I also was going to Washtenaw Community College. I mainly wanted to make this whole documentary just to show exactly what happened, because I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily know what the essential workers went through and what they dealt with every single day for months straight.
So here's what I remember from that night. I didn't eat much, and I went downstairs and made myself a drink, okay? I remember thinking, all right, I'm kind of tipsy, I want another drink. That's all I remember. Yeah, I was not feeling good the next day. my initial thoughts were, yeah, if we could all call it the Kung Flu, that'd be great. Everyone was freaking out about it, and I had a vacation planned. I went to Florida. I got on the plane, and it was only at maybe 80% capacity. I get there, I sit down in the middle seat, there's no one here, and I'm like, great, I got an hour-and-a-half flight, 2-hour flight, and I gotta be in the middle seat. And they're like, all right, we're full. Immediately move over. I'm like, hey, people freaking out about this kind of works out. Anyway, I had my vacation, came back, and my employer said that anyone that wants 5 days off, if they're worried about this this COVID thing, I call them up and ask them about it, and they're like, yeah, it's if you want it, it's yours. Oh, okay, I'll take it. Sure, yeah, I'll take all 5 days. I went online and I looked at plane tickets, and they were so cheap. I remember thinking, it's like I got a fleet of private jets at my disposal. My brother was going down to Florida, so I call him up. I'm like, hey, when are you leaving? And he goes, well, I'm actually walking out the door now. I'm like, oh, all right, pick me up. I'm coming too. Wait, what? I'm like, yeah, it was $150, $140. It was cheap. I'm coming too. Pick me up. Oh, okay. So I hopped on a plane and I went back to Florida. And what made me realize this is bad was when I was down there, they announced they were closing the casino. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I thought at the time that it was a bit of an overreaction. It was nice and relaxing. Like I would go out for groceries probably every 12 days, 10, 12 days. Get 10, 12 days, 14 days worth of groceries and come home and just chill. I didn't care if I got it because I didn't do a whole lot of research, and I'm like, it just seems like the flu, so what do I care? You know it's bad when the entire global economy shuts down and you're like, this is nice.
I just started digging into it, and I had to get on stage and test that joke out until I knew exactly what it was. Now, some premises, you just have to let them go. Like I got some jokes, I think they're hilarious. The audience is like, okay, dude. And I have to know when to let that go. Some people are doing life, trying to hear God's voice and what he wants to do, but you have a premise. Or maybe you didn't even hear from God, you just got a premise. Some people went to school on a premise, and now all you have is a plaque on the wall. Because your premise was about you. I like to do this. I enjoy that. Well, that's fun. As opposed to asking the 3 questions that you have to ask. What is the problem? Who are the people? And what can I give?
So there was like the first initial like chatter of like COVID. I thought this was going to be over in like 2 weeks. So I worked at Best Buy at the time, and we didn't shut down completely initially. It was like a week into like everyone was like shutting down, but Best Buy was still open. And we all kind of joked like this COVID thing's not a thing now, but it is a week later. But then when it really hit me was like when Best Buy actually did shut down, I was like, whoa, we're no customers. It's all curbside now. And that was trippy. My fear more came out of like, I don't know what's next. Like, how do you like prepare for that? I didn't want to get it, see my grandparents, and then have them pass away. I felt good about helping people work from home and stuff and talking about computers or modems and routers to get them set up. So I felt good about that aspect. When we were letting people back into the store in August, that's when I saw things kind of flip for the worse. We had one in particular lady. She walked up to the assistant manager and just flat out went, I'm not wearing a mask, see, Best Buy is infringing on my constitutional rights. How dare Best Buy do that? And she did this for like 5 minutes, just ranting. And my assistant manager, who's a super nice guy, he flat out was like, lady, get out or I'm calling the cops. This is Best Buy's policy, you just get out. Yeah, it got bad. Like I was very, very stressed during that time.
What happened afterwards with Best Buy?
So I chose to work when I didn't have to. And there were like rumors, that there was going to be a reorg happening, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. This is February at the time, and I then get called into the SDR, and he just goes, Ryan, so there's been a lot of changes with, COVID, and we always talk about going back to normal, but, there's no going back to what we had. People work from home now. People love the shipping option. So unfortunately, the company's laying off 5,000 full-timers, and unfortunately, you are getting let go. And I had worked through all of that, dealing with all those assholes. I was like, this is the right thing to do. And then that's the thanks. I then applied for unemployment. I'm gonna use this money. I figured out what I wanted to do, and I got approved to go to Schoolcraft, but it didn't start until May. So I had a couple months of figuring stuff out, and I kept applying for unemployment and pending. And I'm like, what is going on? They kept derailing me, and I had to wait on hold, and I felt so defeated, having to constantly batter unemployment and call them. What is going on? And one lady, I lost it. I pulled a little bit of a Karen because it was my 10th or 15th time calling. And I told her, I was like, why are you guys derailing me and stonewalling me every step of the way? Because I sent them all my paperwork that I needed to, and then some. And I told them, I was like, I chose to work when I didn't have to, and you keep derailing me and stonewalling me. And I remember all the people that were making mega bucks on unemployment, and I got a legitimate unemployment. Why are you screwing me over? And she didn't have anything to say to that. I actually got her to cry. I was very upset. And I told her, I was like, all right, so you're telling me a decision just has to be made? Fine. I then, after that, I had to contact a state senator, and the state senator then contacted unemployment. And then finally in May, mid-May, I actually got approved for the unemployment and all the backed unemployment, with the exception of the 1 week of my severance. It was $4,000, and then after taxes, it was $2,600. And I'm getting this unemployment. Why not use this? And I have all this extra time to really focus on school. The very next day that I got my back payment for unemployment sent me a message, hey, you owe us $2,000. We overpaid you. And I was like, what the hell? So I called them up again after waiting, and they're like, oh yes, because it's due to your availability because you started school. And I was like, so what you're telling me is that if I had drank beer and smoked weed and did nothing, I would have been fine and gotten the unemployment? And her response was, well, we don't condone drinking and smoking weed, but it's due to the availability because you're in school. And I'm just like, that's so fucked up. I remember hearing on the radio, seeing it, and I just remember thinking, I'm dealing with all of this, and all I get is, thanks, pal. When they let people back into the store, I'll never forget this guy. He was just, oh man, I want this, I'm gonna buy this. And he had this big bundle of camera accessories, video games and stuff. And I was working my ass off to find all this product because there's also product scarcity. I got it all for him. And he's like, man, I just gotta spend my unemployment money, And I was just in awe of that statement. It really was a slap in the face of here I am busting my ass, and here's this guy flat out just burning through. Slap in the face, I guess, is the very short answer.
I was talking with a lot of my coworkers, and we all thought it was going to blow over. We've dealt with robberies in the area and special stuff we have to do, and it all blew over within 1 or 2 weeks. So we thought this was just another big thing the media was pushing, and it was, it wasn't anything to worry about. I never thought COVID would be as big as it is today, ever.
I've had
I've had musicians say to me the same sort of things. They said, when I made this little shift right here, immediately the butterflies would just leave. Because think about why people get butterflies before they get on stage. It's because they're trying to get something. So tomorrow we're going to be doing an event for some homeless people. And some of my comedian friends will be like, how can you do comedy for homeless? What if they don't laugh? That's just it. I'm not there to get laughs. But if no one laughs, at least they had the message of this guy who came there, got on stage, and gave his gift to them. But when you have a gift for someone, your job is to present the gift. It doesn't even matter how they receive it. It's your gift. All you have to do is receive it. And if they don't receive it, you still did what you're supposed to do.
This is what COVID patients look like. Their blood is so thin they start to bleed. So they have these huge bruises. They struggle with breathing because they can't gasp. This is the first thing we use for a ventilator. This is called heated high flow. That's what we've been seeing for 2 years. And we know when they get a certain look, we know this is where they're headed. So that's why a lot of nurses have PTSD. Yeah, you might live through it. Fine, great. But if you get it and you get it like that, it is the worst death. And we do everything we can to keep people comfortable. And it doesn't work.
I wasn't sure if it was going to blow over quickly, but I didn't think it was going to be, like I said, I thought it was going to be like all the pandemics that they talked about, the swine flu and all those. I was like, yeah, it's not like it's Ebola. I was just glad I didn't need that stuff that everybody kept hoarding. And I was like, okay, so there's limits on stuff, and I'll buy what I need and do my best not to hoard so that other people can have it. But it hit me when I had to buy ground beef. 3 grown men, me, and a little one. And so I bought 3 Costco packs of ground beef. 1 pack of 3 pounds of ground beef is 1 meal for our family. I didn't even feel like that was hoarding. I just felt like that was feeding my family, and they didn't want to let me buy it. After our vacation, I went to work. I got pulled from my floor to another floor, and I had a COVID patient. He was 26 years old. He was not overweight. He was in good shape. He wasn't dialysis. And the doctors kept saying, we think there's more. And they kept looking for comorbidities, and they couldn't find any. And this poor kid he was only on 4 liters of oxygen. So he wasn't on the heated high flow and all of that. But he could hardly breathe. He was grabbing onto his bedside table, and he's just got his shoulders hunched up, and he's breathing. All he can do to breathe. And we were scared. We didn't know. We didn't want it. And we had to go in there and take care of him. And then we were learning how it was spread as it was coming out. And one of the ways was through feces. And this poor kid had diarrhea so bad. We had to put a bedside commode next to his bed because he couldn't make it all the way to the bathroom, which was maybe, 10 feet. On top of that, he's scared. We didn't know what to tell him. We didn't know how to make him feel better. He knew he had COVID. And then the stupid PPE that they gave us 1 gown to use, and they wanted us to put the gown on in the hall. They gave us an N95 and told us to put a surgical mask over that, and you go in the room. Then you come out of the room with that same gear on, which you're never supposed to do. You take your mask, you put it in a paper bag, fold it up, and you took it to the next patient. And then you kept it until you got another one in a week or 2. So every patient, all the time. I don't know whatever happened to him. I went back to work 2 days later and looked him up and couldn't find him. The COVID patients started filling up the beds, filling up the hospital. They started on 3 South, and then that quickly overflowed into 2 South. And then it came over into the North Tower. Then they went right to 5 East, and we filled up. And then 4 West filled up, and we tried to keep 4 East open with no COVID patients because that was the cancer ward. So mid-April, the entire hospital had COVID, except for 4 East. So stressed. It was, so when your job is to help people, and you've been doing it for 20 years, you know how to help people. And I didn't. I didn't want them to suffer. And families were so grateful. And here they couldn't even see their loved ones. But once I figured out, I was friending people on Facebook. I would tell them, okay, just accept it and we'll FaceTime. And I was FaceTiming with family members. You know, I had one patient, he had a stroke because COVID makes blood clots. I think he was 38 and he had a stroke. He had a stroke so bad he could barely talk. But his wife hadn't seen him in 3 weeks. She had 3 small kids. And so we FaceTimed. She was happy that I did that. I didn't think that hit me. It just hits you. You'll be talking and it just hits you. I don't know why. I'm still friends with her on Facebook too, by the way. He's finally out. He finally started walking. Made it through rehab. It was probably 8 months before she could see him though.
Or I think you're more essential than the quote-unquote essential workers of retail.
That's what I'm interviewing her.
Well, yeah, but we still needed to feed our families, and we still needed to, you know.
True.
But now, I can look at a patient and I can know, for the most part, if they're going to be okay. And so, you know, I can look at somebody and say, I've been dealing with COVID for 2 years. I look at you, you're going to be fine. Don't be scared. We know what we're doing. We have a lot of things we can give you to take care of it. And that always is very much appreciated by every patient. I can remember I had a patient early on. He was 63. His only comorbidity was he was diabetic. He took care of his wife, he walked, he talked, he drove around. His wife got COVID and gave it to him. He wasn't doing well. He was trying so hard and struggling so hard to breathe. And they kept telling me, don't call a code on him. We don't have the ventilators. We only got 2 left in the hospital. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we got 2. We can use one of them. And of course, I didn't listen. I called the rapid response and I had the team come up. Normally, if you intubate someone, you're like, they're going to be okay. We caught it. You know, they're fine. We intubated them. They're going to be fine. They're going to come off the ventilator in a few days. And with COVID, you didn't know that. I didn't know if I was sending him to his death or if he was going to live. And he squeezed my hand so tight. And I couldn't, I was crying and I couldn't, and I pulled away. And I'm almost sorry that I did. Doctor counted his respirations. They were like 55. They're supposed to be 16. They were 55. He was on a BiPAP. They decided he needed to be intubated. And we sent him. And I was just crying and crying and crying. I went off and hid and took care of myself. And on our way to our cars that day, of all days, the community had put this huge sign that said, "Heroes work here," and applauded us as we left. And I know they were, trying to say thank you. You did a good job, whatever, but it didn't feel like it. I wish they would have done it a different day. We didn't get any disaster pay. I don't know what happened to that. We didn't get anything. We did get $500 at some point. Yeah. So I've been trying to put together something for emotional healing, resiliency, whatever you want to call it, for my floor. Because my floor has been COVID. It stayed COVID. Even when the other floors cleaned up and went and didn't have any COVID patients, and that happened, my floor always had COVID. Everybody keeps wondering why we stay. We haven't left. My floor, we are very tight. We'd get people that would come during the pandemic and they would leave. They'd come and leave and come and leave. But us as a group haven't left. And it's because we know our why. I do it to serve my God. I do it to serve Jesus. And some are Muslim, some are Christian, but they do it to serve a higher power, their higher power. And there was somebody I know that was atheist. He didn't stay. He left. Followed the money. But we are touching lives positively. They haven't moved COVID off of our unit. People have asked, but they won't, and I know why. Because we're good at it.
How do I know? A lot of people, when they think of the phrase, how do I know, they always want to put the what behind it. How do I know what I'm supposed to do? The question that you really should ask is, how do I know why I'm here? Because when you know your why, your what becomes more clear and more impactful. So every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode on YouTube of Michael Jr. Break Time. What it is it's me. I travel around the country and I do stand-up comedy, in case you didn't know. And in the middle of my comedy set sometime, I'll stop and just talk to my audience. So we're in Winston-Salem. I'm going to show you a clip from Winston-Salem. So this is what happened at the last episode of Michael Jr.'s Break Time. Check it. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Okay, here's what I want you to catch. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what becomes more impactful because you're walking towards or in your purpose.
Having PTSD doesn't mean that you're weak. It just means you've been through some stuff You know, some people need to paint, some people need to redecorate, some people need to deal with this in their own way, and we need to let them do that.